we'll get into the slides. So what we'll be doing today is something about celebrity endorsement product placement. It is genuinely, well, it should be a lot of fun, this lecture. And I've updated it to put in some really new stuff. So if you have anything to say, please interrupt me, please say it, because all of this material is really current and is actually something that you're exposed to all the time. Celebrity endorsement product placement have their roots in history, we'll go into that, but they're both really modern ways of delivering on marketing. And there's no reason why you shouldn't choose one of those four brands and an appropriate celebrity and pretend perhaps that they're part of an event or use them in some way as part of your integrated marketing plan to endorse your product, So you can go for this and you can use this. But for the meantime, just try and engage with what this is saying, because this is a really nice mixture of what happens in practice and, of course, what happens with the theoretical side as well. So I'm drawing on quite a lot as the books as usual, but I've added in the latest version of Phil and Turnbull because there's a lot more material in the 2019 edition. The 2019 edition, the 8th edition of their marketing communications book. So we'll be looking at celebrity endorsement, kind of what it is, the limitations of it. We'll be looking at product placement, linking that to celebrity endorsement. These two subjects go together. We'll be looking at the three different types of product placement, and again, looking at some of the limitations for each of them. So first of all, what happened this week? So what is happening this week is that marketing bodies react as government commits to new digital legislation. So if you can follow the link, that would be brilliant. Follow the link if you can. Go to Marketing Week and have a look at this story. So the link is on the slides, and Marketing Week says that marketing bodies are reacting as the government commits to new digital legislation. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think about this and let me know what you think. I've got two questions for you, really. I've got two questions for you. So because I prepared this earlier so that I didn't need to leave the slides, my questions are contained within the slides, and they are: this is the story, it's in Marketing Week. This is what the government says it wants to do. I'm not trying to be political about this, although it is very political. I'm just trying to say to you, what's the government trying to do here? That's the first question. And then the second question is more important, is what do you think will happen with this legislation? So the legislation that they're talking about is the government coming back, and they've issued a statement. So there's a ministry called the Ministry of Digital, Culture, Media and Sport, DCMS, and it covers everything that we're doing in this module. In fact, it covers an awful lot about lots of the modules at the business school. And the Secretary of State for that ministry, Nadine Dorries, and together with Kwasi Kwarteng, who's the Secretary of State for Business, they've said in a joint statement that evidence shows a lack of competition is degrading the quality of people's experiences online, putting at risk the viability of companies dependent upon dominant firms, and holding back innovation across the digital economy. It's clear from the response we've received that boosting competition in digital markets is vital. The speech also reaffirmed the government's commitment to reform the UK's data protection regime. So they're connected. So what are they trying to do here? What are they trying to do here? And the question is, what will actually happen? What will actually happen? Because later on in a piece from Marketing Week, from yesterday, it says the government aims to use the power of data to drive growth while maintaining high data protection standards. The Digital Secretary, the then Digital Secretary, Oliver Dowden, said this will require reforming the UK's data so that they are based upon common sense, not box ticking, and ditching the endless cookie pop-ups on websites. So that's a bit of a clue to the first question. What's the government trying to do here? Second question is, what do you think will happen? In response to the speech, the ISBA, that's the something Institute of Standard Broadcasting, and the DMA is the Digital Media Association. In response to the speech, ISBA Director Phil Smith notes the enormous change it heralds for the advertising sector, with alterations to both the UK's data regime and measures on digital competition having far-reaching consequences. And likewise, the DMA, the Digital Marketing Association, welcomes the overall inclusion, but is looking for urgent clarity from the department on what text the data reform bill will contain. So industry, advertising industry, marketing week, really nervous about this. So a couple of minutes. I think this is a really, really important story for us. A couple of minutes. What do you think the government's trying to do with this legislation? What do you think it's trying to do? There's a bit of a clue there in what Oliver Dowden says. And what do you think will be the result of this legislation? What do you think will be the result? Massive impact on advertisers, because they're talking about affecting how companies use data in order to be able to link to your own web preferences. It's everything that we were talking about, search engine optimization, pay-per-click, and all the stuff that we were doing 2 weeks ago. So have a think about that at home. Hope the questions are clear. Have a look at the Marketing Week article yourself. Decide for yourself what you think will be the outcome of this. What is going to be the outcome of this? So I hope it's okay that I don't show this at home. But you can go to the Marketing Week article using the link. Okay, right. So first question was, what do you think the government's trying to achieve? What do you think the departments are trying to, or the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, what do you think it's trying to achieve with this legislation? What do they say they want to solve?
Stop like Facebook and Google being dominant.
Yeah, I think that's what they're saying. They want to stop Facebook and Google being dominant, don't they? And they want to have more innovative, they call them innovative, I'm guessing they're talking about things like search engines and media platforms where you can spread the cost of advertising, where there would be a bigger share across the platforms for their advertising. I think that's what they're saying, and to stop those pop-ups. So they want to stop the pop-up. So what do you think will be the outcome of that? So bearing in mind, all the legislation we've got at the moment for GDPR is all European. And the political side of this is that the government has a desire to scrap European legislation and to introduce its own legislation in order to govern the cookies. Because when you go onto a website, you have to accept a cookie. Why do you have to do that? Why do you have to accept a cookie? What's that got to do with GDPR?
They're not allowed to do it for you. You have to accept it.
Absolutely. You have to consent to them being able to see I suppose, a little bit about your profile, who you are, where you are, what your IP address is. And they can certainly see, I'll show you a case in a minute, they can certainly see other things that you browse as well. Because you only have to mention something, don't you, to your phone, and then instantly you get adverts for it. You only have to start browsing for, what did I browse for the other day? I showed you, watches, didn't I? I showed you a picture of a watch. Endless bombardment with watches. I bought some lights the other day. I get light pictures every day. Fantastic. So, in order to sign up for that, you have to accept the cookie. And the reason why you have to accept the cookie is for GDPR, is for data protection, for your own protection. So your European Parliament has put it, or European Union has put in place this data. And the British government is saying, actually, for the UK, we're going to opt out of this and have our own data. And now we will be able to tackle the big books like Facebook and what are the other big ones you think for advertisers? Twitter? TikTok? Yeah. So what do you think will happen? So the problem they want to do is they want to get rid of pop-ups. The problem they've got is they want to have their own legislation. What do you think will happen? What do you think is likely to happen here? Do you think they'll be successful?
I feel Facebook will try to find a way around it.
I think Facebook will try to find a way around it, yeah. And also, I think they'll be in trouble because if you have to buy something from Germany, what would you go online for and buy something internationally? You guys, I'm just trying to think of an example. So a genuine example. What might you have to buy something internationally? I don't know if you wanted to buy a cheap phone or something like that. You didn't want to pay UK prices. You might go abroad. No, struggling here a bit. But as soon as you're trying to then trade across borders, say you worked for a say you wanted to insure something. Say you wanted to insure a car or something like that, and Zurich, insurance was the underwriter. Was the financial provider, and we didn't have the same GDPR rules. They would have to have their own rules for what data that company would be allowed to hold. And suddenly, you might find yourself, without so much access to, things from abroad. Also, if you think about like just the cookies and the way that works, as soon as you go to a site outside of the EU, outside of the UK, then actually you might be then under different rules for GDPR and holding your data. Whereas at the moment, the GDPR rules are pretty much across the world, led by the European Union. So having our own rules is, I'm trying not to get political, I'm trying to keep this into the realms of advertising, but it has massive effects. Yeah, does anybody want to know? I've asked you the question, I'll give you the answer. Again, I've done it all over again, it's a disaster. But do you see that this could have big ramifications for the marketing industry? Because everything has to be online, everything has to be falling within the rules. If you're changing the rules about what data you can supply, it will massively change the opportunity for big platforms like Facebook to make money. But they're sure to find a way around it, I would have thought. So any comments on that at home? Did you hear the discussion at home at all? Advertisement might not be addressed to people outside of the UK. Yes. Are you saying that's a really good point? So are you saying that would be a good or a bad thing, Sanwell? I think that's a brilliant comment to make. Yeah, an advertisement now might be applicable only within the UK. Do you think that's a good or a bad thing? A bad thing, yeah, I think it's a bad thing because it might stop UK companies from having access to European markets if the rules of engagement are different. So if you say, I want to advertise my product on Amazon, you might only be able to allow you to sell your products to Amazon UK, because say you need to give, I don't know, a name and address and things like that, and a confirmation, perhaps it's a hotel booking or something like that, and suddenly the confirmation has to be through email, where you've got to give them your details. And if you usually then, if you do Airbnb and those kind of things, you're usually accepting a cookie, aren't you? Right at the start of your progress through that website to take advantage of that marketing. And so I think you're making a great point here, is that a UK supplier might end up by only being able to access a UK market under our current rules. Or we make our rules and regulations changed so that they're exactly the same as the ones that we started with before we change, in which case I'm not sure that we are just, putting in place some hurdle. So, any more comments on that? Yeah, it'll cost more for companies to advertise their products internationally. Yeah, I think I think it probably will. I think the cost of that, there will be likely, I think there will be an additional hurdle to advertising, and it will likely put the cost of advertising up, which probably might affect the volume and productivity of that industry. So I can't see this ending well for the government. I think I understand the problem they're trying to solve, and without being political, I think you can't undo the internet. You can't undo the power of those companies to use that big data. And once the genie's out the bottle, I think it's really difficult to contain it. Phew. Right, let's move on. That was not that helpful. Right, so this module, all about the 1P, promotions P, marketing communications. I keep stressing that at the beginning of lectures at the risk of repetition, because I want it, when you come to do your coursework, don't write loads and loads of introduction about the way that the organization is marketed as a whole. Try and keep it to marketing communications. Mention these other things, but try and remember that your coursework is about this, not about the wider marketing thing, which is more like strategic marketing management and the module you did with Dr. Wilson last semester. So we know what it means. It means a dialogue. We know that Phil and Turnbull have this lovely DRIP thing, which is about persuading, informing, reinforcing the message and differentiating yourself from the competition. We think, don't we, that because most products and services are beginning to look pretty generic, pretty uniform, pretty, what do you call it, heterogeneous, or I'm not sure I pronounced that correctly, but looking pretty much the same, because the output from companies and products and services is pretty much the same thing. It means that you have to think of ways of differentiating in your message in order to try and derive some competitive advantage or some separateness from your competitors. Because there's only two ways of doing marketing. One is to do the same as everybody else, but do it better, cheaper usually, and the other one is to do something different. So this module needs to use some of the big marketing tools like segmentation, targeting, and positioning. That's foremost in your coursework, and as is the idea of getting to understand your brand, because those things really help an organization to do some planning and really help you to do your coursework. And we're down in the bottom here. So next week we do the last of these yellow boxes, PR, and we'll do a recap as well on the coursework if you want it. So if you have any questions for the coursework, next week I'll be going right through that again, and we'll be doing PR. But for this week, we'll be doing product placement and celebrity endorsement. We're going to start with celebrity endorsement and look at all the things that has, all the good and bad things. So 2 celebrities up on the screen now. Who are they? One of them, yeah, so you can read. It's brilliant. Taylor Swift. Who's Taylor Swift?
She's a singer.
Yeah, she good? Yeah, I think so too. And who's the guy on the left? I think the black one squashed the picture up. It makes him look like he's got very long hair.
Not Gary Lineker.
It is Gary Lineker. And Gary Lineker without his beard and
Well,
yeah.
his big
Yeah, because he's and he did a sponsorship with Walker's Crisps, didn't he? What flavour did he do? He did salt and vinegar, didn't he? As you would, but which is all very funny. But why would you, if you were Walkers, why would you want to associate with Gary Lineker? Why would you want to have? It goes back to that sponsorship thing, doesn't it? So celebrity endorsement is a special kind of sponsorship. Why if you were Coke, why if you were Diet Coke, would you want to associate your product with Taylor Swift?
To target her like fans.
Yeah.
Probably want to buy Diet Coke.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's might be a big overlap between buyers of Diet Coke but that's a bit chicken and egg, isn't it? Because the fans of Taylor Swift might go, oh, she drinks Diet Coke and they drink it. Or the fans of Diet Coke might go, oh, Taylor Swift drinks it, I'm going to drink too today. But I would say, without being too, talking about body form and things like that, I would say that she represents a young woman who doesn't go on a lot about her weight or diet issues and things like that, normal size, good-looking young woman who lots of people would look up to as a role model without having a big thing about health or anything like that. Am I being right? But she's pouring it, isn't she? Look like it's some kind of, health tonic, isn't she? So she's making it seem as if it's really quite a cool brand. She's quite a cool person. I mean, she's really driven, isn't she? She's quite outspoken. She doesn't make a fool of herself in the media, does she? She says what she says is what she means. I think she's a decent pop star. Why would you want Gary Lineker to associate with Walker's Crisps? What is he? So he's an ex-England captain. No, he's an ex. Did he play for England?
Yeah.
Yes, he scored loads of goals, didn't he?
Euro.
Yeah, he had did he have the most number of goals for England until Wayne Rooney took over, or something like that? Anyway, football. He played what? Leicester.
Leicester, Everton, Barcelona, Tottenham.
Loads of places. Yeah. All the clubs but this is the clubs he hasn't played for is much shorter. So he's a really successful footballer. So if you were Walkers, why would you want to have him as your celebrity? Are crisps healthy? Are Walker's crisps healthier than some? Could be. Why could they be?
Always think of worse.
Yeah, because you make a crisp that's that big.
Use different oils.
Yes, you use sunflower oil, don't you? And a bit less salt, yeah. Less salt, sunflower oil, yeah, and that's probably exactly what that's trying to do. Here's the health crisp, bang this in your mouth, because it won't really mess up your diet. Yeah? So you'd want, wouldn't you, then to associate with kind of something that's pretty active. And, yeah, so if you're Walkers, you would want to associate, wouldn't you, something, your brand with something which was inherently healthy and positive thing. Gary Lineker's all over the beeb, isn't he? As a commentator for football matches, he's in the public eye. A lot of people look up to him. And he's also quite controversial, isn't he? He's come out and said some quite political things for which he got slated. He's also, they reckon, paid a lot of money. But, a decent endorsement, as is Taylor Swift. And they're both doing jobs, aren't they, for the brands that they endorse. But it doesn't always have to go that well, doesn't it? It doesn't always have to go that well. So who's the guy on the left? Brad Pitt with lots of long hair. Has he got long hair these days? Does he look like that? Is that a lockdown picture? Brad Pitt, has he been in the news for those things? Yeah, he's always getting into trouble, isn't he? What, I don't know, who was he married to? Yeah, but not anymore. No, so acrimonious divorce? Yeah, big trouble. Do you want that? Do you want to be linked to that? Chanel, so you're number 5 Chanel, you're the world's most famous perfume. Do you reckon? Is there a more famous, more exclusive, luxurious perfume than Chanel number 5? it's the Rolls Royce, isn't it? Isn't it? It's the original, isn't it? It's the original perfume. I mean, it must be ancient. It's fantastic. So you'd want to associate with fantastic, lovely Brad Pitt, wouldn't you? Up until such time as his love life goes wrong, and then suddenly you don't want your perfume to be associated with nasty, acrimonious divorces, do you? Splashed all over, Amber Heard's and Johnny Depp's, splashed all over the news. That's the last thing you want your brand to be associated with. Hate and, lack of kind of respect and love between this couple and something really negative. It's the last brand association that you want. And then Tiger Woods, yeah? So we've done him today. He did it too much, didn't he? Just do it. Didn't work for Nike when his own private life fell apart. And again, he was in the news for very bad reasons. So celebrity endorsement works fine up to a point. Up to a point. We'll be looking at some of the limitations soon. So what is it? So it's a special form of sponsorship where the company sponsors a celebrity in their endeavours to go about their career. So they promote the artist, the athlete, the celebrity in their career, and in return, well, there's usually some exchange of money. In fact, there almost certainly is exchange of money these days. In return, the celebrity endorses the brand. So it has the effect of providing some integrity and glamour to the brand and creates consumer awareness for the brand because, in the first pictures we saw, didn't we, Gary Lineker, with using the stuff at the first hand and Taylor Swift pouring herself a Diet Coke. So those things are going to work in terms of creating consumer awareness about the brand and it's part in your life and lifestyle. So celebrity endorsement isn't weirdly new. If there's on recommended readings, there's some journal articles about celebrity endorsement. It's actually involved with the film industry, and up until about 1914, film companies refused to name the actors. So as I understand it, a film would have been shown. It would have been shown in black and white. It had no sound, so essentially the actors were miming. And the whole thing, I think, was in those days, was like walking to a cinema. Like walking to a theatre. So you walk into a theatre, and there'd be a big screen, there'd be a flickery projection in black and white, and there would be no sound at all. It would be captions on the screen, and it would be somebody playing piano, and they'd have their back to you, and they'd be looking at the screen and playing the score, playing a film score, along to the black and white images. So the companies that were making the films refused to name the actors because all they had to do was mime. All they had to do there was, stand there for a week, miming, doing various things, and then bang, their images would be on the screen. And in those days, the film industry must have been incredibly expensive to pay for the celluloid and all the kind of sets and the lights and all the things that would make a half-decent film. Even in 1914, even, up to the First World War, it must have cost a fortune. And I'm guessing that the actresses were paid really badly. In fact, I know they were, because the women suffered in particular. They were given no wages at all. They literally picked people out of chorus lines so the world hasn't changed, has it? The world has not changed one bit, but because those young women were picked out of chorus lines where they were girls in musicals, in dance hall, in classical musicals. That's what it is, like a cabaret or a musical or something like that. Those young women were pulled out of there and plonked in front of the screen because they looked nice, but they weren't given any wage as a result. So, in return, those young women needed some kind of income, and they used to begin to endorse products. So it's because they weren't allowed any wages, they used to start to endorse products in order to bring in some money. And here's some pictures of Mary Pickford. So she's a really early film star, taken in 1917. So we're not even sort of finished the First World War yet. And she's endorsing this Pompeian beauty powder, which I think must be some kind of makeup puff or something like that, that goes on her face. And she is a recognised beauty of the day, at least for those people who are able to watch films. So there she is in flickery American screens, in, you know, in sheds and big halls all around the States. And she makes a living by getting some income from the providers of Pompeian beauty cream, beauty powder. And now, of course, it works in the same way. And now it works in the same way. So the product is endorsed by a famous person or an expert. Consumers who like the celebrity, as you were saying, will then trust her product device, want to see the same products, want to use the same products as the celebrity, and you're getting this positive image transfer from the human brand to the product. But for classical conditioning to really work, it requires a fit between the celebrity image and the brand image. So there has to be a meeting of the mind. Why should that be the case? So classical conditioning, how does that work? What's classical conditioning all about? Who's Mr. Classical Conditioning in Russia? It's Pavlov, isn't it? So he's ringing bells, dogs are dribbling. He goes, actually, why can't human beings be the same? Why can't we respond to stimulus? So we respond to the stimulus in the advert, don't we? But what stimuli are we responding to? So we've got an advert in front of us. We've got Rihanna. She's looking great, and she's promoting Nivea. How are we seeing that? How are we seeing Nivea with any kind of positive image transfer? I think, you know, it's the same thing as Taylor Swift, isn't it? How does she look in the advert? She looks great, doesn't she? She's got nice skin. Do you think that's maybe a little bit, I mean, it's probably quite old. Do you think that's maybe been like a bit sort of photoshopped to make it look a bit kind of even? It's got amazing skin, isn't it? It's amazing texture. It's perfect, isn't it? Absolutely perfect. Maybe that's because she uses Nivea. Do you think she uses Nivea in real life? No. We don't know though, do we?
She has her own.
Sorry?
She has her own company.
She has it. Okay. Well, thank you for saying that, because that's really important, isn't it? But then I'm guessing this is before then, and this is when she's getting started. And she's probably, by doing this, she's probably thinking, hang on a minute, I don't have to get the money from Nivea. I can do this myself. I think Nivea's a German firm, so it will be quite international. Rihanna, international star. There's a kind of a globalization thing, aren't there? They've certainly picked somebody who's in the news. Is she controversial, Rihanna?
She has controversy against Chris Brown.
Against her?
Well, Chris Brown was horrible.
Okay.
I think it's controversial.
Yeah, but yeah, recently, yeah, decent character. Yeah, good at her job. Really good singer. Yeah, good association. So do you think she used Nivea? No. Do you think she could use Nivea? Absolutely she could, or she could have done when that witness was taken. Yeah, this is credible. Yeah, this is credible. So it needs a credible, believable fit between the image of the celebrity and the brand. And again, you've got a young woman there who looks absolutely great, and Joan Crawford in her day would have looked pretty good too. And she's inviting you to be a Lux lady yourself as well. So she's saying, oh, I use this soap, making my skin really clean and healthy, and I'm advising you to use this as well. So yes, she's using her awareness and familiarity. Again, this would have been in in black and white films, but I think we're sort of maybe between the wars, or maybe in the I would have thought the 1930s, 40s with this kind of look. There's about something that she's using her awareness and familiarity. She's using how, she's an attractive woman again, and her attractiveness is as much in her face as it is between the fact that she's, familiar to certain people. Certainly the people who maybe can afford to go and see a film could also afford to buy Lux soap. There is an appropriate fit between the endorser and the product. And the behaviour of the endorser might impact on the brand. So if they do good things, it would bring a positive association. Good, nice bells ringing from Pavlov. But is she trustworthy, honest, and believable? We don't know, do we? We don't know until, the internet says otherwise on social media. Actually, we can only believe that they are. But in the modern age, of course, it doesn't work that well. It doesn't work so well. So in the modern age, of course, you can't get away with being a Tiger Woods and bringing the brand into disrepute because they'll drop you like a ton of hot bricks. Poor old Douglas Fairbanks promoted camels, didn't he? So he had this long-lasting sponsorship and died of lung cancer. And that's the reason I've got this up there, because of course traditional celebrity endorsement has got this two-way thing going on. If you can have a positive image transfer, you can also have a very, very negative image transfer. You can also have a very negative image transfer too. And actually, celebrity endorsement can take all sorts of forms. And we've had a look at some of these, haven't we? Who's that on the left there? In his underpants, sitting there in his underwear. Yeah, David Beckham. David Beckham is he's a bit of a sex symbol as well, isn't he? Well, he certainly is there. What is he modelling? His underwear. What's in his underwear? What's on his underwear? That's my impression. What brand is it? Armani, isn't it? Oreo Armani. And very famous advert. Actually, did it work? Yeah, why not?
Because men didn't relate to it.
Yeah, I mean,
They don't think they don't.
yeah. Who's buying them underwear? Who's buying them Armani? Who's buying who Armani underwear? I think wives and partners are buying. Yeah, is that fair? Because we're talking about luxury underwear. All the blokes go out and buy luxury underwear. No, it's a kind of Christmas thing, isn't it, with the expensive socks? It is, isn't it, surely? So it might work in that way, but you're relying on there being very sort of black and white genders here, and it all being, a kind of binary world, in which case, men are going to be turned on by, or men, women are going to be, there's going to be a stimulus for women to see David Beckham, the idol, and then blokes are happy to wear it too because they enjoy watching him play football. I don't know, they'll have all these things in place. I'm not sure. I think it's a very complicated world these days to say that something like that would work. If you look into the Pulse microphone, it's really quite clear about sex, what's saying, because it goes, advertisers use it all the time, but actually it doesn't make people feel particularly good about their own bodies when they see that, and they don't necessarily associate these brands with positive image transfer. That was why I tried to say inappropriate things about Taylor Swift, because it seemed to me that she was associating herself with product, but that's not been a big thing, diets and those kind of things. It's not been a big thing about her wears. That's, for me, why they would have chosen that, so that they didn't get into any problems. Then we've got who's with the watch in the middle? Tennis player. Federer. What colour is what's he promoting? What's the watch? Yeah. What timekeeping do you have at Wimbledon? Who does the timekeeping at Wimbledon? Who puts the scoreboard up there? What colour are the Wimbledon surrounds? Sorry? Well, the logo is gold, but the backdrops and everything in Wimbledon, like on the tennis court, central court. Yeah. Yep. Association. Yep. So why wouldn't you go the whole hog and make Rolex into a kind of really Wimbledon thing? And my guess is that that's aimed at a UK audience, and it's probably at the time of Wimbledon when he's knocking the opposition. But why wouldn't you choose Federer? There he is. He's a bit of a gent, isn't he? So he whether he wins or loses, actually he's really gracious. Who did he lose to last year? They reckon that's his last chance. He lost to somebody, didn't he? Djokovic, was it? And he lost really graciously. He said, I wasn't as good as I should have been. He was better than me on the day. Sportsmen, they behave like that. Maybe I'm trying to read too much into it, but, it's really tricky, isn't it, to think that you could be world number one at something like Michael Schumacher, and actually then also be a gent. You can be the most amazing tennis star like Boris Becker, but actually when push comes to shove, you're a bit of a, your image might not be super duper clean. So hence, Roger Federer must be like gold dust to as a celebrity endorsement for a sponsorship deal. So does Federer wear a Rolex? Sorry?
Maybe.
Yeah. Is he there?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? And I reckon he might do. They'd probably give him 10 of the things. They're probably worth about 25 grand each or more. Studded in gold and diamonds and everything with, with jeweled movements inside, super duper amazing things, covered in bling. And they probably give him 10 of them and say, actually, if you sign this deal, it's worth a huge amount of money, but you're never allowed to wear another type of watch again. I think I might take that, especially if it was, the Gold Star Rolls Royce plated watch of the universe, the one that James Bond wears. Oh, no, wait, he doesn't. Hang on. So, and then we've got Cara Delevingne, looking great. Again, the sex sell, well, she's not particularly, graphic or anything, is it? There's no nudity there, but that's, oozing, isn't it? Sort of glamour and everything, and I think the "Don't Crack Under Pressure" taglines have been into that, and you might associate, therefore, the Tag Heuer with that kind of being, supermodel, busy, jet-setting lifestyle under the lights, where everything's got to be absolutely immaculate, perfect, and ready to be, to go into the camera shot, including, by the way, your watch. That has to be this one. And then we've got the shock factor, haven't we, of Bernie Ecclestone, Formula One boss, getting beaten up to try and keep hold of his Hublot and that story. And just while we're on the subject, is that we've got to dip back into the textbook and just have a look at the different kind of reactions. So both of the textbooks, Endorsement and Phần, will go into quite a lot of detail about how humour is used in advertisements, how sex is used in advertisements, or sex appeal and glamour, and then how shock tactics might work. And again, you're simply talking about a certain kind of classical conditioning. And the idea here is that you're exposed to the kind of shock advertisement, that you meet it as a bit of a surprise, and therefore your attention is drawn to it. And actually, after a while, if the advert's got something about it, then you might begin to go through ADA and even into kind of the elaboration likelihood model territory, because your attention is drawn. You might begin to understand what the advert's about. There might be more elaboration in your mind, more, more thoughts, more thinking about what it's about. Then you're beginning to retain it, thinking about how it's kind of getting in your memory banks. And then you might be thinking about how that might change your behavior and your attitude towards the brand. So shock tactics definitely going to work. And Phil and Turnbull, in the latest edition, go into a bit of detail at this point and talk about how celebrity endorsement, people that are kind of endorsing a product, can do it in two ways. Either they can give you lots of information about the product or service, in which case you've got mostly something about informational content, as they put it, or it's emotional content. And actually what they're saying is that those celebrities are really helping you to understand what the brand is about. So that as well as being able to think about the brand, you're also getting some emotional attachment to the brand. And the celebrity endorsement can do those two things, at once, because you can see them using the brand at first hand, which is how you might think about like Nivea really doing the job to keep your skin soft. But you also have some emotional connection with Rihanna because you like her music, or think that she's a very cool person, or like the fact that she's a strong individual who's just seen success. So the celebrity endorsement could pass on those two sorts of information, and that might then change how you look at kind of informational motives and how they might work, and emotional motives and how they might work. So Phil and Turnbull list all these things about depletion. So you run out of whatever it is you want to buy, and the emotional state is that this is a bit annoying, and the advert will lead you to convenience. Oh, this is how you can replace your stock. Or you could have a situation where you want to avoid something bad happening, so you might feel guilty about that, and the advertisement might be offering you peace of mind as well with its information. Or you might say, oh, if you're not already satisfied with this product, have you tried this one? Yeah, your razor doesn't shave very closely. Why don't you try this one? So you move the viewer from kind of disappointment towards optimism, towards the fact that their new razor will do the job. Or maybe you've got some problem to avoid, like, oh, I'm going to break down, and the AA is coming along and says, don't have any worries there. You'll be soon be on your way again if you subscribe to us, and the dog can hang his head out to the window into the fresh air. Or it might be something to do with removing a problem from your life and moving the customer from anger through to fear. And that might be as well transformational motives as well. Think about that as well. So that some kind of sensory gratification or intellectual stimulation or societal approval as well, where you're moving people in an emotional state away from being dull towards being excited, elated, away from being bored or disinterested into being excited or interested in something, or away from being worried or apprehensive about something, to moving into being flattered or fulfilled about something. And celebrity endorsers are giving you all those messages. And I just put this slide in because this is one of the very first papers that Petty and Cacioppo did, and they are, aren't they? In this module, we use them as the authors of which model? Which model, Petty and Cacioppo? Is it ADA? Is it narrative transportation theory? It's the other one, which is elaboration likelihood model. So they're the authors of the elaboration likelihood model. And it doesn't work so well with me staring up at the screen. But got two adverts here. The left panel shows, so they both show adverts and they've both got bits blanked out. That's why they look a bit weird. The left panel shows the celebrity endorsement advert for edge razors employing strong arguments. The right panel shows the average citizen's endorsement ad for the edge razors employing the weak arguments. Pictures of celebrities and citizens have been blacked out to preserve propriety and anonymity. So Bakersfield, placed in California, Petty and Cacioppo are doing this research, and they go, actually, hang on a minute, if people are going to elaborate upon an advert, if they're going to think more about the message, maybe it might depend about the source. Or let's have a look at the difference between the source coming from an ordinary citizen of Bakersfield, California, and a football team member. So they've got the football team members to endorse the ad on the left. Professional athletes agree. Yeah, and the football team was these guys showing their photos in the advert. And they found that provided a lot stronger argument. There was a lot more persuasion. There was a lot more elaboration from the people that saw the advert than the one on the right that just had normal citizens here. So this is 1970 something, I think, is 83. So this is 1983. So this predates the kind of their real thinking about the elaboration likelihood model as it came to be. And they're thinking now about why should certain adverts psychologically have more effect than certain others. And they're deciding that source is really important. And they're deciding, in fact, that if the source comes from a well-known celebrity, perfect fit, by the way, isn't there, with the razor? Yeah, with kind of, the idea of being, I don't know, successful and strong and fit and those kind of things, fits perfectly with the idea behind a kind of very male product like a razor. And they're deciding, in fact, that the source made a big difference and that celebrity endorsement could have a big effect. So we're not so much talking about why here, we're talking about evidence, empirical evidence, because they did this test with loads and loads of graphs and maths in it that are completely beyond me. But they did this as an empirical experiment and found out that more, in their view, more people took more notice of the advert if it came from the celebrity or the well-known local football players. Okay, let's take a short break. I'll